What if I told you that the number one reason seniors end up in the emergency room has almost nothing to do with heart attacks, strokes, or cancer? Most people would guess one of those. They'd be wrong. The number one reason adults over 65 end up in the hospital is falling. Simple falls. And the number one daily habit that prevents those falls, prevents heart disease, prevents cognitive decline, prevents diabetes complications, and keeps seniors out of hospitals more than any single medication ever invented, is walking. Not running, not CrossFit, not some expensive supplement, walking. Now before you click away thinking you already know this, stay with me. Because what doctors are now discovering about walking, specifically how it works inside your body at the cellular level, will change the way you think about this simple act for the rest of your life. And later in this video, I'm going to share the exact walking protocol that researchers at Stanford University found reduces hospital visits by 50% in adults over 60. 50%. That's not a typo. Let me explain what actually happens inside your body when you walk for just 30 minutes a day, because this is where it gets fascinating. The moment you take your first step, your leg muscles contract and squeeze the veins in your calves. Your calves act as a second heart, literally. Doctors call them the calf muscle pump. Every time your calf contracts during a step, it pushes blood upward against gravity back toward your heart. This matters enormously for seniors, because as you age, your circulatory system weakens. Blood pools in your lower legs. That pooling causes swelling, increases your risk of blood clots, and makes your heart work harder to circulate blood through your entire body. Walking activates this calf pump. Every step is a squeeze. Every squeeze pushes blood back up. Your heart doesn't have to work as hard. Your blood pressure drops. Your risk of deep vein thrombosis drops. This alone keeps thousands of seniors out of hospitals every single year. But that's just the cardiovascular piece. Let's talk about your brain. Within 10 minutes of walking, blood flow to your brain increases by roughly 15%. Your brain receives more oxygen and more glucose, which is its primary fuel. But here's what researchers at the University of New Mexico discovered that shocked the medical community. When your feet hit the ground during walking, the impact sends a pressure wave up through your arteries. That pressure wave actually increases blood flow to the brain beyond what your heart alone could produce. Your footsteps are literally pumping extra blood into your brain. This hydraulic pulse, they found, optimizes brain function in real time. It enhances the delivery of oxygen to the middle cerebral artery, which feeds the regions responsible for memory, planning, and decision-making. The exact regions that deteriorate in Alzheimer's and dementia. A study published in the journal Neurology tracked nearly 79,000 adults and found that those who walked regularly had a 40% lower risk of dementia. 40%. And the participants didn't have to walk far. The sweet spot was roughly 98 steps per day, but benefits started appearing at just 38 steps. That's less than 2 miles. That's a 20-minute walk around your neighborhood. Now here's where this gets personal for every senior watching. Let me talk about bones. After age 30, you start losing bone density. By age 65, many adults have lost enough bone mass that a simple fall can fracture a hip. A hip fracture in a senior is devastating. 20% of seniors who fracture a hip die within 1 year. Not from the fracture itself, but from the complications. Pneumonia from lying in bed, blood clots from immobility, infections from surgery, depression from losing independence. This is why falls are the number one reason seniors get hospitalized. And this is where walking becomes medicine. When you walk, every step places mechanical stress on your bones. Your femur, your tibia, your spine, your pelvis, they all bear weight. That stress activates cells called osteoblasts. Osteoblasts are bone-building cells. They respond to mechanical loading by depositing new calcium and collagen into your bone matrix. At the same time, walking suppresses osteoclasts, the cells that break down bone. So you're simultaneously building new bone and slowing the destruction of existing bone. No medication does both. Bisphosphonates, the most commonly prescribed osteoporosis drugs, only slow breakdown. Walking does that and builds new tissue. But I haven't told you about the balance piece yet, and this is critical. I'll get to that in a moment because it ties everything together in a way most doctors never explain to their patients. Let's talk about blood sugar. Because diabetes complications are the second leading cause of hospitalization in seniors, and walking addresses this with a precision that's almost surgical. When you eat a meal, your blood sugar rises. Your pancreas releases insulin, which tells your cells to absorb that sugar from the blood. But as you age, your cells become resistant to insulin. They stop listening. Sugar stays in the blood. It damages blood vessels. It damages nerves. It damages kidneys. It damages eyes. This is type 2 diabetes, and it affects more than 30% of Americans over 65. Here's what walking does. When your muscles contract during walking, they absorb glucose from the blood through a completely separate pathway that doesn't require insulin at all. Your muscle cells have glucose transporters called GLUT4. During exercise, even mild exercise like walking, these GLUT4 transporters migrate to the surface of the muscle cell and pull sugar directly out of the blood. No insulin needed. Your muscles become glucose sponges. A study in diabetes care showed that a 15-minute walk after each meal reduced blood sugar spikes by 50% in older adults. 15 minutes after each meal, that's it. And the effect lasts. After a single walk, your muscles remain more sensitive to insulin for 24 to 48 hours. So you're not just fixing the problem in the moment. You're resetting your body's ability to process sugar for the next 2 days. Do this daily and you're fundamentally changing your metabolic profile. Now let me get to balance, because I promised this would tie everything together. Inside your inner ear, you have a system called the vestibular apparatus. It's essentially a biological gyroscope. It tells your brain where your body is in space. As you age, the hair cells inside this system deteriorate. You lose vestibular function. Your brain gets less accurate information about your body's position. This is why older adults feel unsteady. But here's what most people don't know. You also have something called proprioception. These are sensors embedded in your muscles, tendons, and joints. Proprioceptors tell your brain the angle of every joint, the tension in every muscle, the position of every limb. Your brain combines vestibular input with proprioceptive input and visual input to keep you balanced. Walking trains all three systems simultaneously. Your inner ear gets stimulated by the movement. Your proprioceptors in your feet, ankles, knees, and hips fire constantly, sending position data to your cerebellum. Your eyes track the environment as you move. Your brain is processing all of this in real time, making thousands of micro-adjustments per minute to keep you upright. Every single walk is a balance training session, and balance is a skill. It improves with practice and it deteriorates without it. Seniors who stop walking lose proprioceptive sensitivity rapidly. Their brains get less data, they become less stable, they fall, they end up in the hospital. A study from the British Medical Journal found that regular walking reduced fall risk in seniors by 30%. 30% fewer falls. That alone would prevent hundreds of thousands of hospitalizations per year in the United States. Now, I want to talk about something most health videos won't cover, and it might be the most important factor of all. I'll get into that next, and it has to do with your immune system, your gut, and a molecule most people have never heard of. But first, let me tell you about inflammation, because it's the silent driver behind almost every disease. That puts seniors in the hospital. Chronic inflammation is not the same as the redness and swelling you get from a cut. That's acute inflammation. That's helpful. Chronic inflammation is a low-grade, system-wide fire that burns quietly in your body for years. It damages arterial walls, which leads to heart attacks. It damages brain tissue, which leads to dementia. It damages joint cartilage, which leads to crippling arthritis. It damages the lining of your gut, which leads to poor nutrient absorption and weakened immunity. Researchers now call it inflammaging because it accelerates every aspect of biological aging. Here is what walking does to inflammation. During moderate exercise like walking, your muscles release molecules called myokines. Think of myokines as chemical messages your muscles send to the rest of your body. One of the most important myokines is interleukin-6, or IL-6. Now this is where it gets confusing for most people, because IL-6 released during chronic inflammation is harmful. IL-6 released from contracting muscles during exercise has the opposite effect. It's anti-inflammatory. Muscle-derived IL-6 triggers the release of interleukin-10, an interleukin-1 receptor antagonist, both of which suppress the inflammatory pathways driving chronic disease. Your muscles are literally sending chemical signals that put out the fire of inflammaging. Every walk is a dose of anti-inflammatory medicine produced by your own body. A 2019 study in the journal Brain, Behavior, and Immunity found that just 20 minutes of moderate walking reduced inflammatory markers in the blood by 5%. That might sound small, but compounded daily over months and years. That reduction is the difference between arteries that stay flexible and arteries that harden, between a brain that stays sharp and a brain that fogs, between joints that move freely and joints that lock up. Now let me tell you about the molecule I mentioned. It's called brain-derived neurotrophic factor, or BDNF. Doctors call it Miracle-Gro for the brain, and it might be the single most important chemical your body produces for long-term health. BDNF is a protein that your brain produces, and its job is to keep your neurons alive, encourage the growth of new neurons, and strengthen the connections between existing ones. Think of it as fertilizer for brain cells. When BDNF levels are high, your brain forms memories more easily, processes information faster, and resists the kind of neuronal death that characterizes Alzheimer's disease and other forms of dementia. When BDNF levels are low, your brain shrinks. Literally. The hippocampus, which is the region responsible for forming new memories, physically decreases in volume when BDNF levels drop. And BDNF levels naturally decline with age. Here's where walking enters the picture. A landmark study from the University of Pittsburgh tracked 120 older adults over 1 year. Half of them walked for 40 minutes 3 times a week. The other half did stretching exercises. At the end of the year, the stretching group's hippocampus had shrunk by about 1.4%, which is normal age-related decline. The walking group's hippocampus actually grew by 2%. It reversed the aging of their brain by approximately 2 years, and the mechanism behind that growth was BDNF. The walking group had significantly elevated levels of BDNF in their blood. Their brains were literally bathing in growth factor every time they walked. So let me summarize what happens during a single 30-minute walk. Your calf muscles pump blood back to your heart, reducing cardiovascular strain. Blood flow to your brain increases by 15%, delivering oxygen and fuel to memory centers. Your footsteps create hydraulic pulses that further boost cerebral blood flow. Osteoblasts activate and start depositing new bone. GLUT4 transporters pull sugar out of your blood without requiring insulin. Your vestibular system, proprioceptors, and visual processing centers all train simultaneously to improve balance. Your muscles release anti-inflammatory myokines that suppress chronic inflammation throughout your entire body. And your brain floods with BDNF, which grows new neurons and protects existing ones. All of that from putting one foot in front of the other. Now let me talk about your gut, because this connection is something researchers have only understood in the last few years, and it changes everything. Your gut contains roughly 100 trillion bacteria. That's more bacteria than human cells in your entire body. These bacteria collectively form what's called the gut microbiome, and it controls far more than digestion. Your gut microbiome produces roughly 70% of your body's serotonin, which regulates mood and sleep. It produces short-chain fatty acids that feed the cells lining your colon and reduce your risk of colorectal cancer. It trains your immune system to distinguish between threats and harmless substances, and it communicates directly with your brain through the vagus nerve, a superhighway of nerve fibers running from your gut to your brainstem. When your gut microbiome is diverse and healthy, you sleep better, think more clearly, fight infections more effectively, and experience less anxiety and depression. When it's depleted or imbalanced, you get sick more often, your mood deteriorates, your cognitive function declines, and your risk of hospitalization increases dramatically. Walking changes your gut microbiome. A study published in the journal Gut Microbes found that regular moderate exercise like walking increased the diversity of beneficial bacteria in the gut within just 6 weeks. Specifically, walking increased populations of bacteria that produce butyrate, a short-chain fatty acid that strengthens the gut lining, reduces intestinal inflammation, and has been shown to protect against colon cancer. The participants in this study didn't change their diet. They didn't take probiotics. They just walked, and their gut bacteria shifted toward a healthier, more diverse profile. This means walking is simultaneously improving your cardiovascular system, your brain, your bones, your metabolism, your balance, your inflammatory status, and your gut health. No pharmaceutical on earth does all of that. No supplement comes close. And unlike every medication, walking has zero negative side effects. Now I promised you the specific protocol that Stanford researchers found reduces hospital visits by 50%. So let me give you that now, because I want you to be able to start this today. The protocol is simple. Walk for 30 minutes a day, 5 days a week at a moderate pace. Moderate pace means you can hold a conversation, but you'd be slightly out of breath if you tried to sing. That's it, that's the target. But here's the important part. If you're currently sedentary, you don't start at 30 minutes. You start where you are. Week 1 and Week 2, walk for 10 minutes a day, just 10. Go to the end of your street and back. If that's all you can do, that's enough for now. Your body is already responding. Your GLUT4 transporters are activating. Your osteoblasts are waking up. Your brain is getting extra blood flow. You're already ahead of where you were yesterday. Week 3 and Week 4 increase to 15 minutes. Add one more block to your route. You'll notice by now that the walk feels easier. That's because your cardiovascular system is adapting. Your heart is pumping more blood per beat, which means it doesn't have to beat as fast. Your muscles are becoming more efficient at extracting oxygen from the blood. You're building mitochondria, the power plants inside your cells. More mitochondria means more energy. You'll feel it. Week 5 and Week 6 increase to 20 minutes. By now, something remarkable is happening in your brain. Your hippocampus is responding to the consistent BDNF exposure. You might notice you're remembering things more easily. Names that used to slip away might come back faster. You might find yourself sleeping more deeply because your gut is producing more serotonin, and your body temperature regulation has improved from the daily exercise. Week 7 and Week 8 push to 25 minutes. Your bones are measurably denser than they were 2 months ago. Your balance has improved because your proprioceptors have been training every single day. Your inflammatory markers have dropped. If you had blood work done right now, your doctor would see lower C-reactive protein levels, which is one of the primary markers of systemic inflammation. Week 9 and beyond, you're at 30 minutes. This is your maintenance dose. This is the habit that keeps you out of the hospital. 5 days a week, 30 minutes, moderate pace. Now let me give you 3 specific strategies to make this habit stick, because knowing the science means nothing if you don't actually do it. First, attach your walk to something you already do every day. This is called habit stacking. If you drink coffee every morning, your rule becomes this. Coffee, then walk. Not coffee, then sit. Coffee, then walk. Every day, no negotiation. You're linking the new habit to an existing one, which makes it automatic. Your brain doesn't have to decide whether to walk. The decision is already made. Coffee means walk. Within 3 weeks, this becomes as natural as brushing your teeth. Second, walk after your largest meal of the day. Remember the blood sugar research I mentioned earlier. A 15-minute walk after eating reduces blood sugar spikes by 50%. So if your biggest meal is dinner, take your walk after dinner. You're getting your daily movement and you're controlling your blood sugar at the same time. Two benefits from one action. And here's a bonus. Walking after eating also accelerates gastric motility, which means food moves through your digestive system more efficiently. You'll experience less bloating, less acid reflux, and better nutrient absorption. Third, get a walking partner. This isn't just motivational advice. There's hard science behind it. Social isolation is one of the strongest predictors of hospitalization in seniors. A meta-analysis published in PLOS Medicine found that social isolation increases mortality risk by 26%. That's comparable to smoking 15 cigarettes a day. Walking with a friend, a spouse, a neighbor, or even a dog addresses both the physical and social dimensions of health simultaneously. You're exercising your body and you're feeding your need for connection. Seniors who walk with others are significantly more likely to maintain the habit long term. They show up because someone is expecting them. The accountability isn't a nice bonus, it's the mechanism that makes the habit permanent. Now let me address the most common objection. I hear people say, I have bad knees, or I have arthritis, or I have back pain. I can't walk. Here's what the research actually says. Moderate walking reduces arthritis pain. It doesn't increase it. When you walk, the cartilage in your joints compresses and releases like a sponge. That compression pulls in synovial fluid, which is the lubricant that keeps joints moving smoothly. Without movement, your cartilage dries out, it becomes brittle, it breaks down faster. Walking literally feeds your cartilage. A study in the Annals of Internal Medicine found that walking reduced the onset of disability from knee arthritis by 18%. People who walked had less pain, not more. If your joints hurt, start slower. Walk for 5 minutes instead of 10. Use a cane if you need to. But move, because stillness is not rest for your joints. Stillness is starvation. Let me give you one more piece of science that ties this all together, and I think it's the most compelling argument of all. Researchers at the National Institutes of Health studied telomeres in adults who exercised regularly versus those who didn't. Telomeres are the protective caps on the ends of your chromosomes. Every time a cell divides, your telomeres get shorter. When they get too short, the cell can no longer divide and it dies or becomes dysfunctional. Telomere length is one of the most reliable biological markers of aging. Short telomeres are associated with heart disease, cancer, diabetes, and early death. The study found that adults who engaged in moderate physical activity, equivalent to 30 minutes of walking 5 days a week, had telomeres that were significantly longer than their sedentary peers. The difference was equivalent to roughly 9 years of biological aging. Let me say that again. Regular walkers were biologically 9 years younger at the cellular level than non-walkers of the same chronological age. You cannot buy that in a pill. You cannot get it from surgery. You cannot find it in any supplement on any shelf in any store. It comes from walking. So here's what I want you to take away from everything we've talked about today. The number one daily habit that keeps seniors out of hospitals is not complicated. It is not expensive. It doesn't require a prescription, a gym membership, or special equipment. It requires a pair of shoes and a front door. Walking strengthens your heart. It grows your brain. It builds your bones. It controls your blood sugar. It trains your balance. It fights inflammation at the molecular level. It diversifies your gut microbiome. It lengthens your telomeres. It reduces your risk of falls, dementia, diabetes complications, heart disease, arthritis, disability, and depression. It cuts hospital visits in half. 30 minutes, 5 days a week. Start with 10 if that's where you are. Add 5 minutes every 2 weeks. Walk after meals. Walk with someone you care about. Make it as non-negotiable as eating. Every step is a deposit into a health account that will pay you back for the rest of your life. Every step is a message to your bones to stay strong. Every step is a signal to your brain to keep growing. Every step is an instruction to your immune system to stay alert. Every step is a choice between the hospital and your living room, between dependence and independence, between watching life from a window and walking through it. Your body was built to move. It was not built to sit in a chair and wait for something to go wrong. The research is overwhelming. The mechanism is clear. The prescription is simple. Walk. Your future self is counting on it.